Hi, everybody. How you doing? I am Johan. That over there, away from us, is Mr. Charleston Hughes. He'll be joining us shortly. But today's guest, I want to tell you a little bit about him. He doesn't need an introduction. Mr. Two-time Super Bowl champ from the Chicago Bears and various other NFL teams. One of my favorite players, Mr. Jim McMahon. Jim, how you doing today?
Good, Johan. Good. Looking
Yeah,
forward to this.
yeah.
I see all those bottles in the background. It looks like you guys have fun there.
You're getting thirsty, aren't you? Just looking at that. Uh, that's one of the things we were talking about before. Is that one of my favorite stories about you is I was watching 30 for 30, and I wanted to ask you: did you really have a beer or two in the limo when you got to your first press conference with the Bears?
Well, that was actually draft day. I got drafted. They said, "Can you come to Chicago this afternoon?" I said, "Sure." So I jump on a plane. Take a 3-hour trip from Utah to Chicago. Then I'm in the limousine for an hour, and there's beverages in there. And it wasn't like I was 18 years old. I was 22.
Yeah.
So and I was a bit thirsty after that 4-hour trip. So I had a couple, and then I've forgotten all about. I wasn't even thinking about press.
Yeah.
And when we pulled up to Hallis Hall there in Lake Forest, Illinois, uh, there were still a couple beers left on the strand. So I grabbed them with me, stepped out of the car, and then they just went whoo. I'm like, uh-oh. And Mike Ditka was actually walking into the building at the same time I got there. And he just looked at me and said, "So you're my first round pick, huh?" And I said, "I guess so." And so that was my introduction to Chicago.
That is awesome. If there's one thing that my wife and I were watching 30 for 30 this weekend, and I was kind of telling her about you and about Walter Payton, who's one of my favorite running backs, and I was saying if you know about spirit animals, they always say if there's a spirit. I said if anybody was my spirit football player, it was you because I just saw the way you were rebellious, the way that you're it seemed like carefree. You didn't give a fuck, right? And you came in with that kind of mentality. I don't know. You tell me, how was it like going from BYU, which is a Mormon place, university, going from there to the bright lights in Chicago?
It was quite refreshing after 5 years in college.
Yeah, I bet.
Uh, yeah, it was interesting. Chicago was a lot of fun. I lived there for 28 years.
Yeah.
It was a great city. Um, all my kids were born and raised there, so I still have a lot of love for Chicago. I just couldn't stand the weather anymore, so I moved to Arizona 12 years ago, and I've been loving it ever since. But yeah, Chicago was a great place to play.
And
Great fans.
yeah, I bet. I bet. Tell me about that. Let's go back to a little bit about meeting Mike Ditka for the first time and Mr. Hallis. What was the first memories that you have of A, Ditka, and B, Mr. Hallis?
Well, Ditka was when I first got out of the limousine,
Yeah,
so that was
yeah.
my first introduction to him. And then I had to go and I was sitting outside of George Hallis's office for about an hour, just sitting there, staring at the secretary. And finally, and I had some friends on the Bears at the time who happened to be in town, and they had called me and said, "Hey, let's go out tonight, let's celebrate." So I wanted to get out on the town, and I'm sitting there, just staring at a secretary. And I finally said, "Hey, what am I doing here?" And she said, "Well, Mr. Hallis would like to speak to you." I said, "Okay, when will that happen?" She said, "Well, he's taking a nap." And I was like, "Hey, go wake him up, man. I got things to do." So I walk in, finally get to go into his office, and he's already got a contract there in front of him. I was drafted 5 hours prior to this, and he's telling me, "Well, it's the most money he's ever offered a rookie." And then he said, "By the way, you're too short. Your arm is suspect. You got a bad knee, and you can't see out of one eye." He goes, "Maybe you should go to Canada." That was his first words to me,
What was
and I looked back and I said, "Well, why'd you draft me, old man?" I said, "Who's in your scouting department?" And then he slid the contract over, and I just saw one number, and I just rolled it up and I threw it at him, and I said, "I'm not signing this," and I walked out. That was my first meeting with him.
holy shit? Did you have an agent at that time, or were you just going in solo?
Yeah, I did have an agent. He wasn't at this first meeting with Hallis, but
Yeah.
at the time, the USFL league was just coming into the
Yep.
to start up,
Yep.
and I knew I had a meeting with George Allen, who used to coach the Redskins and the Rams.
Hmm.
He was going to coach the Chicago team of the USFL,
Okay.
and I had a meeting with him probably 2 days after I saw Hallis. So I wasn't really too concerned, and I went and met with George Allen. He offered me a great contract, and I said, George, you put this in writing, I will play for you,
Holy
but
shit.
I have 2 weeks. Back then, they had they told all the rookies that if you didn't sign by July 15th, you weren't eligible to play that season. And so I said, George, I got 2 weeks. You get this thing in writing, I will play for you. And he never came back to me with a contract. And so I ended up having to sign that wrinkled up paper I threw back at Hallis.
So you could have been in the USFL playing there instead of the Bears and taking
Making
that route.
a lot more money than the Bears had offered.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure.
No shit. No shit. So what was your first reaction when you went into the Bears, your first training camp? I mean, guys like Walter Payton were there. What were your first memories of meeting guys like him and some of the other veterans and been around? Was that intimidating for you, or you were like, what was your mentality like?
Well, it's just like going to college for the first time. You're gonna meet a lot of new faces.
Yeah.
It was good that I had known a couple of the players prior to that. We'd been on the same All America teams in their senior years, so
Yeah.
uh, that helped a lot. But I can't even remember, the first time that I ran into Walter. But I just remember Dick's first team meeting that he had with everybody when we first reported. He said that he goes, look, we got to get good news and bad. He said the good news is we're going to the Super Bowl in the next 3 or 4 years. The bad news is most of you guys won't be here. And he kept his word. I mean, we had a lot of 6-7 year veterans that were just kind of hanging around collecting checks, and he got rid of them. Got in a lot of young guys that wanted to work, because we did work. I mean, those practices were not easy for us. I mean, we basically played 4 games a week. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday was like game day. Everything was live. We had no buddy periods where I won't hit you hard, you don't hit me hard.
Yeah.
There was none of that, because we had Buddy Ryan on the defense and Ditka on the offense, and they didn't like each other to begin with, and so that kind of trickled down to the players. So our practices were 3.5 hours, just because there was fights every play. There was always a fight. Nobody wanted to give up an inch, so we couldn't wait to get to Sunday. Sundays were easy.
Wow. I mean, it must have been like we see it from the outside. I saw it as a fan from the outside, kind of the animosity between Ditka and Buddy Ryan, right? How was that inside? Because like you said, in practice, you got Buddy Ryan, who's a defensive mastermind, right? And you got Ditka, very offensive minded in doing that. And then you got yourself coming in as a rookie to try and, were you like following with a lot of the plays, a lot of audibles in practice, or what was that like with that scene? And some of the guys you were lining up against, I mean, you're not small guys. McMichael, Otis Wilson, Singletary, some beast, Dan Hampton.
Like I said, Sundays were easy after that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I knew Buddy. For some reason, Buddy always treated me well. Buddy did not like offensive players at all. But I think it was because he coached with a guy that coached me in college. He had coached somewhere down the line at some university. And I think my coach called him and said, hey, this kid can play, or whatever he told him. So Buddy always treated me well.
Yeah.
And I remember, he used to tell his defensive guys during practice, don't hit number 34 and don't hit 9. They didn't hit 34, but they hit my ass quite a bit. I'll tell you that.
Who are some of the guys that you remember from your days playing, some of the early on, when it was like, holy shit, this is the NFL? Like, you remember some of the first few years when a guy nailed you? Do you ever remember some of those hits and you're like, holy fuck, okay, I'm here. This is it.
The hardest I ever got hit was in college. So
Really?
You're gonna get hit.
Yeah.
I think it's a bigger transition going from high school to college and college to pro, because from in high school you might have 3 or 4 good players on your team if you're lucky.
Yeah.
But then you get to college and everybody's pretty damn good. And then you get to pros and they're even better. So, but the speed of the game between high school and college is way different than college to pro. Just the normal speed of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
and you'll find out you can't really outrun defensive linemen in the pros. So
Yeah.
those
Even
guys, even though they're 6'7" and 300 pounds, they're pretty damn fast too. And I got to play with some great ones. Reggie White comes to mind.
yeah.
What do you do? You can't outrun them. You can't see over them. You certainly don't want to get hit by them. But yeah, it's you're going to get hit, and I never really worried about that. I only knew one way to play, and that was
Yeah.
I hated giving myself up, and I hated sliding. One of the few times I ever did slide feet first, I got drilled in my ass
Yeah.
in the NFC Championship game, and I almost missed the Super Bowl because of that.
Was it
And
that
so I
big?
never slid again.
Was it that big of a welt? I remember that was obviously the famous mooning part where you mooned the reporters there on that Thursday of the Super Bowl. But was it that fucking big, or what was the issue? It was just a
Oh
bad.
yeah, it was. His helmet caught me right on the as I slid. He caught me right on the bone, the butt bone, or whatever, right
Yeah.
on, and my ass swelled up to one side. I mean, I'd be sitting like this talking to you today.
Jeez.
But it was all black and blue, and it was painful as hell. Couldn't sit down, couldn't really move, and without the help of that acupuncturist, Willie Galt had a buddy who was an acupuncturist in Tokyo,
Yeah.
and we got him somehow. We got him down to New Orleans, and he stuck me with needles for about 3 days in a row, and got rid of the swelling, and uh, that was part of the mooning. I got tired of answering the questions about my ass, so one day we had a helicopter buzzing the field as we're doing calisthenics, and we're in shorts anyway, so it was kind of easy to just let them see it rather than have to explain it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. How was, I'm sure everybody's going to ask you about the game or did that or, the touchdowns that you scored in the fridge, doing that. I want to know more. So this shows, yeah, you can get that. How was the parties after? How was the atmosphere in New Orleans? How was that? Where did you guys go? How many stogies did you guys have and bottles of tequila did you go through?
Well, in typical bear fashion, we were supposed to have a big team party in one of the ballrooms of the hotel we were staying at. And I just remember getting down to the party and not knowing a single person in that room. It was all the owner's friends and this and that. So I ended up taking one of the trays of liquor that they were kind of wheeling around the party, and I took it up to our floor. And there was probably 7, 8, 10 guys just sitting outside of our rooms, enjoying the aftermath just by ourselves. We're like, we're not going down to that party. We don't know anybody.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I said, let's just hang out here and have fun.
That's awesome. Just the boys, just relaxing just after the game, after
Yeah,
you won.
and I got a bill for that tray of liquor too.
Did
So
you? Hallis was
that's
that cheap?
typical. That's typical Bears.
Really? So let's talk about that a bit. How do you? What's your reaction now when you see the Bears these days? Over the last few years, watching them, and kind of I don't know what to call it. Do you call it dysfunctional? Do you call it obviously not successful? But they have a young quarterback now. They're starting to be able to come up, and what's it like watching them? Do you get frustrated?
I don't watch them, so I don't.
Yeah. Well,
I haven't. I did watch a couple of playoff games this year that were damn good.
yeah.
That Chiefs Buffalo game is probably as good a game as you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just kind of keep up with the guys that I still know in the league that are coaching. Leslie Frazier was a teammate of mine in Chicago. He's a D coordinator there in Buffalo. Andy Reid from Kansas City. I've known Andy since college. He was one of my left tackles.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera, I believe, is still in Washington.
Yep.
So I just kind of, I'll check scores on ESPN and see who's doing well. And my sons who play fantasy ball or whatever they call it, they let me know who's doing well during the year because I could care less really. I've been out 26 years now,
Yeah.
and yeah, I love to play, but I'm not a big fan. I don't like watching. I didn't like watching if I was on the sidelines. I didn't like it, so
Yeah.
I don't want to waste 3 or 4 hours on a Sunday to watch these.
Yeah, yeah. What is some of your most precious moments when you look back now? I mean, there's only a small percentage of the people in the world get to play at a pro level and then even win a championship and be part of, two for you. When you look back on your playing days, what are some of the things you're most proud of that you kind of smile when you talk to your kids or when you're looking back? What are some of the things that you sit there and go, holy shit, that was pretty cool.
Well, winning the Super Bowl, obviously, they can't take it away from me.
Yeah.
So that's always nice. But, the thing that I remember and think more fondly about is the guys I played with. I mean, just the fun that we used to have. Because, basically it's a boring life unless it's game day. You go to work in the morning, you get there at, 7 o'clock in the morning, you get home at 6 o'clock at night. There's not a hell of a lot to do. I mean, when you're not practicing, you're in meetings, you're watching film. I mean, there's a lot of things you got to do. And I was always in the training room because I had something that was hurt. And so I had to spend more time there. And so, Sundays were great, but other than that, it's not a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah. And some of those guys, who are some of the guys that stand out to you, or some of the funny guys? Give me some guys in some pranks that were ever played, or who are the guys that's kind of that you think about now?
Well, I spent a lot of time with my O-line. There's a lot of humor in the game of football. A lot of it's, most people would think it's kind of sick, but hockey guys would love it. I know.
Oh yeah.
No, but I spent a lot of time with those guys. They're still some of my best friends. Even, I played for 7 different teams, so I had a lot of different offensive linemen.
Yeah.
And the majority of them were pretty damn good, but I had a few that I could have done without. And my body's still feeling it now from those few guys. But yeah, that's really what you miss. You don't really think about the games or the plays. You just think about the fun that you had with these guys that were having to deal with the same stuff you were dealing with every week.
Yeah, yeah.
For years.
Yeah, yeah. Anybody that you said you watch the NFL right now? Anybody that you're always in constant contact with that you played?
I still see Jimbo Covert quite a bit. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame a year ago. Finally went in this year because of the COVID bullshit. But
yeah.
Still see him. I still see Richard Dent every once in a while at different functions.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I just saw Steve McMichael a couple of months ago. I was back in Chicago. He's got ALS.
Oh no.
Really bad.
Really?
And he was diagnosed, I think, less than a year ago. He went from walking to a wheelchair to bedridden right now, and it's just it's so tough to see. The guy was a hell of a player, one of the biggest, strongest guys to ever play, and now I'm probably bigger than he is.
Jeez.
It's just a really tough situation that he's in. But let's see who else I see every once in a while. Yeah, I can't even think. I talked to Keith Van Horn. I saw him at Steve McMichael's house.
Wow.
Matt Suey every once in a while as well. So
was that?
Yeah, it's strange. I'll see guys randomly at an outing, nowhere near Chicago, and that's always nice.
When I see Matt Suey, I always think of that porn mustache. He was famous back when he had that original great mustache that. Before it was cool to have that porn mustache, he had it, and it must have been a treat watching that. So, how about
It was great to see him in the huddle because you know why it was so black? He put polish on it.
No,
figured that out. Really? When he started to sweat, he'd get these black streaks in his helmet down his face, and we'd all look at him and go, "We knew you were, dyeing that damn hair." Because right now it's whiter than my computer screen.
That's awesome. The true secrets come out now, years later, and be able to do that. So, but that was such a sweet stash that he had back in the day. I'd always sit there and go, "Holy crap, I can't." This is about 7 months for me growing this thing out. So, for me to be able to see a mustache like that,
from lifting the bottle too much, little friction.
Yeah, exactly. But to me, to be able to see that mustache is the one thing I always remember about Matsui and doing that. How is the fridge for a teammate, and how is the fridge? I wish Charleston was here. Because I would have wanted to ask Charleston, trying to imagine tackling a guy that was that big and be able to do that. But what was your reaction when was it Ditka that came up with the idea to put him in the backfield?
Well, all that came about because the year before, 1984, we played the 49ers in the NFC Championship game in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And late in the game, Bill Walsh put Guy McIntyre in the backfield, who was one of their offensive guards. And they just ran the ball down our throat like 6 minutes. And so that was just to get back at Bill. And then it became a circus. He had plays where he was going to run it, he was going to throw it.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually called he was supposed to throw a pass in the Super Bowl. I tossed it to him. He went out to the side, ended up tucking it and losing a couple yards. But uh, yeah, he was a great teammate. He was a lot of fun. Just a big happy guy. I mean, he just always had a smile on his face. Uh, and he'd come in the huddle when it's we're getting down by the goal line, and he'd either say, "Give me the ball," or "I'm here to block." So I knew what play it was.
Did you
But
have?
he grabbed the ball like I would tell him, just lift up an arm and
Yeah,
I'll stick it in there.
yeah.
I said, don't grab at it, because he would grab at it like a double cheeseburger. Man. He about ripped my hands and arms off. But yeah, it's amazing how much force that he could have from 2 or 3 yards in the backfield. I
When
mean, he hit some guys. The sound it made, I still can't explain it. Other than hear the guy that he hit go ooh, and then you hear him land on the ground.
yeah.
But I mean, he'd run low to the ground, and he was basically round. I mean, where are you going to tag it? You can't put your arms around him, and he was very strong.
When you see the videos, I watched those videos of him, and back there, you just looked at that was such a brilliant concept, that, like you said, the 49ers started it, but to have the fridge with that much athletic ability of a guy that big, when you're a linebacker and you see him leading the way, or even that touchdown he scored in the Super Bowl, he nailed that guy that was coming to tackle him. And the guy was going low, had good technique, coming in. And the fridge,
Yeah,
man, there's no way to stop that unless you take out his legs. But the fridge was that athletic, he can go over you, right? And then do that. That's
yeah, he was a hell of an athlete. He could dunk a basketball.
really
Standing right under the rim and jump up. You didn't want to be in the gym when he came down, because he would
thunder.
shake the ground a little bit. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was a hell of an athlete.
Do you ever talk about, or is there any conversation after about, Walter Payton, one of the best running backs and athletes to ever play in the NFL, that he didn't get that touchdown in the Super Bowl? Was that ever a conversation or afterthought that you ever had, that, man, maybe we should have given the ball to him or doing that? But you guys didn't really get a chance to, because the score was, you ran it up pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, people ask me that question all the time,
Yeah.
and I tell them this. I said, look, he carried the ball, I think, 27 times in the game,
Hmm.
or close to it. And but New England's focus all week was, we stop Walter, we win.
Yeah.
And so it's because of him that everybody else was able to have a big day, because everywhere he went, I mean, he was shadowed by 3 or 4 people. And he got the ball down on the goal line a couple of times, but
Yeah.
it really
Stop him.
wasn't. There's nothing there, because
Yeah.
they were keying on him so badly.
Yeah.
The first time that I scored, it was an option play.
Hmm.
And I faked it to the fridge, and when I came to the end of the line of scrimmage, the end guy went straight to Walter. I,
Yeah.
I got no choice. I
Yeah.
got to turn up. Um, yeah, it's unfortunate, and I really never really knew how bad that hurt him.
Mm.
I figured, why would he care? He it was like I said, because of him is why everybody else was able to have success that day. It was his
Yeah.
greatness that made everybody else play well. And had the game been close and had been a
Different story.
a nail biter, and him not scoring, I could see him being upset. But it was a blowout.
Yeah.
It was just, hey, we did what we were there to do, win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that he was that upset about it.
Yeah.
I've talked to his son Jared about it since, and Matt Suey. Matt told me, oh yeah, he was pissed.
Really.
And we came in at halftime screaming, yeah, let's put 50 or 60 on these guys. And Dick is going, yeah, let's do it. And then I think we were all out of the game by the end of the middle or late of the third quarter. He took all the starters out. So
Yeah.
we might have had a couple more chances, but like I said, I don't think he would have got in, because they were keying on him so hardly.
Well, like you mentioned that before, and too, and when you watch the film or you watch the highlights, they are, like you said, 9 men in the box, so they're shifting to the side where he's going in, and all you did is make the proper reads that you've probably been used to for how many times, right? And just the guy's coming, committing to Walter, and you're going to hit that hole and go in or give it to the fridge,
Yeah,
right?
the perfect example, I tell people, I said, watch the first play of the second half. I
Mhm.
think we were backed up on our 4-yard line, and we ran a play action pass, and it wasn't even a good fake to Walter. And there was 6 guys chasing him, and Willie was running up the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Had I thrown it a yard further, I might have still had that 96-yard touchdown record. Unfortunately, it was a little underthrown, and he got tackled, but we got out of the hole.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to get into a little bit about why I'm wearing this shirt and how the hell did you become best friends with Mr. Grant Fuhr and the relationship and how you guys carry on. Who's a better golfer between you and him?
Oh, he kills me. I'm not even close.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who's a better drinker between you and him?
No, I can keep up with him there.
Okay, okay.
I'm not a very good golfer, but I'm at least a +6 drinker.
That's good. That's what I want to get into a little more. Get into how Grant and Jim became such good friends, two iconic superstars in the 80s and 90s. And to do that, we'll talk a little bit about concussions, and then we'll just chat about anything else that's going on in your life, Jim. So we'll be right back after this. And maybe Charleston will join us. If he's ever somewhere found in Saginaw, Michigan, he might join us too. So we'll be right back after this.
Hi, my name is Rob Peterson. I'm the broker owner of Realty One in Regina. Real estate and life is about great people, and that's why I'm associated with Charleston Hughes and Johan Zielinski and IKS to sponsor the Better with Age podcast. Realty One was founded in Regina 11 years ago. It's an independent brokerage, it's local, and it's full of great people helping great local Regina people buy and sell properties. It's entrepreneurial based, which means you have non-narcissistic agents that have your best interest in mind, not their own. In these coronavirus times, real estate market right now in Regina and Saskatchewan is thriving because people are thinking more local. They're not thinking about traveling because we can't, and that's driving our market. When you hire a realtor, no matter who it is, no matter what company, please interview them. Please make sure they're a good personal fit for you, because that's what this is all about. It's good people connecting themselves with someone that they know has their best interest in mind. And that's what the Realty One family does, and that's what a lot of agents in Regina do. But make sure you take your time and find the best fit for you and your family.
It's that time of year when divisions are decided, champions are crowned, and legends are born. Now, it's your turn to win big. You've heard the name just about everywhere, MyBookie. They're the industry's leading online sportsbook and casino, and it's not hard to understand why. With thousands of lines to bet on all your favorite sports, NFL, NBA, and college ball. Check, check, and check. MMA and soccer, they've got all the latest odds, period. Take advantage of MyBookie's prop builder and live in-game betting, where every single run, throw, and touchdown is another chance for you to put cash in your pocket. Visit their mobile-friendly website today and get your deposit matched halfway up to $1,000. Just use the promo code when you make your first deposit. The best part is they make it simple, with a variety of ways to deposit instantly, including credit card, bank transfer, Bitcoin, and more. Whether you're at home or on the go, on your laptop or on your phone, it's not too late to make your New Year's resolution a resolution to get paid. Bet, win, and get paid at MyBookie.
All right, welcome back, everybody. How you doing? We are back with Mr. Jim McMahon. Jim, we talked a little bit about, before in the previous segment, about the reason why I'm wearing the shirt, Mr. Grant Fuhr. He's been on our show once, and I'm actually going down to his celebrity golf tournament, which I believe you are going to also.
I will see you there.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll be sharing some tequila then there that night on the Friday and the Saturday. I don't know why he booked. Is it normal to have these celebrity golf tournaments golfing at like 8 in the morning?
No, hopefully that's a misprint.
Because I was.
Because Grant knows better than anything before 10. We're not real good at.
Well, that's what I was looking at. I was like, holy shit, breakfast is at 7, golfing starts at 8 or something like that. I was like, and we're going to be drinking the night before at the live auction and doing that.
I'm really hoping that's a misprint.
Yeah. So.
I'll be complaining from now until then to get that changed.
Good. I'm sure it holds no weight for me, but once you start to complain, that's good. I'm on your side with that. So can you tell me a little bit about your relationship? How the hell did two superstars from two different sports growing up in the 80s, and how the hell did you guys become best friends? You were his best man, correct?
Yes, at his last wedding. Yes, I was.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about.
Yeah, we met. I'm thinking maybe 20, 25 years ago. Might even been longer than that. At a celebrity golf event. I don't remember the city, but yeah, we just kind of hit it off because every time I would go into the bar, Grant was either sitting at one end of the bar or the other end. So I always know where to find him.
Yeah.
If he tells me he's at the bar, I just know. I just look at both ends, and you can find him. And we both love golf, and we both like to have a little libation after the round, or I like to have him during the round too. Maybe that's why he plays better than me. I don't know.
Yeah. I got
But,
the same problem. I got the same problem.
Yeah, we just hit it off and been good friends. Like you said, I got to be his best man at his last wedding with Lisa, and
Yeah.
been buddies ever since. Yeah.
What's some of the funnest times you can remember hanging out with Grant Fuhr?
Oh boy.
Have you camped?
Like I said, we played a lot of golf together, but I'm
Okay.
usually not having that much fun on the course. At least my score's not having fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, just sitting around and just talking about the teams that he played with, teams that I played, the guys that we played with. I mean, it's just like we were teammates,
Yeah.
And it's just a lot of fun. He's got the same kind of attitude as me. He don't really care much.
Yeah. You got on Twitter. You guys are very similar in personalities, and his responses, I'm kind of always shocked because he doesn't give a fuck. Like, he'll say it back to someone on Twitter. He doesn't hide his feelings. He'll say, "Shut up, dickhead," or who are you? Where's your Stanley Cups? Or something like that, where you're going like, yeah, exactly. He's one of those guys, and I'm like, it's cool to see, right? You see his personality, and he's not afraid to give it back.
Well, that's what I would do if I was doing my own Twitter. I had my son doing it for years, and because I don't really get it. I don't understand why people give a crap about what you do all day long.
Yeah.
I certainly don't care. But I got 2 or 3 guys that are handling that, and so yeah. Because I would tell my son sometimes, because he'd say, "Oh, you got a lot of grief from this person or this person."
Yeah.
And I would just say, "Well, tell him to fuck off."
Yeah.
I can't say that. I go, "Well, that's what I would say."
Yeah.
But he would never do that. So. I
Grant,
said, "Well, they're going to know it's not me."
yeah, no kidding. Have you been to Canada quite a bit?
I've been up there a few times. Joe Carter, the old
A ball player for the Blue
Toronto
Jays.
Blue
Yeah,
Jay.
yeah.
He holds a golf event there in Toronto that
Yeah.
I've gone to a bunch. I did a speaking engagement up there. I'm trying to think of the town. Windsor, maybe.
Yeah, okay. In Ontario.
It's not real far across from Detroit.
It's right across the bridge. Yeah, right there.
Yeah, so I've been
You were
a couple times up there.
you were booked to be able to come to the university where I grew up in, University of Saskatchewan. You were booked before COVID to be able to come for their
Yes, I remember that, yeah.
dog's breakfast there, and then COVID hit.
Exactly.
Yeah, and to do that, we were all pretty
They've been in
excited.
touch again. We're trying to figure out another date where I can get up there. So
Nice. Well, I'll have
come see me if I make it.
I'll have tequila right there. As soon as I see you, I'll be the first one holding that bottle of tequila there for you to be able to do that. I have a buddy, a lot of friends loved watching the Bears in the 80s. And one of my friends, I was like, "Hey, I'm going to have Jim McMahon on." He goes, "Okay, you got to ask him the question. How much shit did he get in at the White House when he went and wore the Bears jersey when you won it with the Packers?" And to do that, you just came up with that on your own, or that was kind of like a dedication to your teammates? Because obviously you guys didn't get a chance to go till later in Obama, but you didn't get a chance to go because of the shuttle, the space shuttle that happened.
Correct.
Yeah.
I explained that. I explained that to all my Green Bay teammates. I told them, I said, "Look, we didn't get to go," and some of them were so. I mean, they told me, "Yeah, we were in junior high when you guys won," or something like that.
Yeah.
I said, "Well, you probably don't remember the space shuttle blowing up. That's what happened 2 days after we won."
Yeah.
And all the focus went there. Obviously, I mean, that's rightly so. But
Yeah.
I think they could have snuck us in there somewhere between then and the time we went, because. And I called all my offensive linemen up from Chicago, and I said, "Look, I'm wearing my Bear jersey at the White House." And I said, "If you give me your jerseys, I'll hold them up at the team picture too." But they never sent them. But I explained to all my teammates; they didn't have a problem with it.
Nice.
I explained it to Mike Holmgren as well,
Yeah.
the head coach.
Yeah.
And the only guy that really was pissed was Fritz Shermer, who was our defensive coordinator. And then I figured out why, because he was the defensive coordinator with the Rams, and we had beat the Rams to go to the Super Bowl back in '85. So
Yeah.
that's why he was upset. But everybody else didn't really have a problem with it.
Nice. And what do you remember about when you got to go you know, obviously and see Obama and Obama's a big Chicago guy and doing that. How was that? I mean, obviously it was a little bit different because you guys didn't have Walter there, right? He was passed on
No,
and
no,
doing
yeah,
that.
he wasn't there then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that was a lot different. You know, I didn't have to waste time going through the tour that I'd taken with the Packers. So, and they had this little area outside the White House there on the lawn, and they had a little bar, and I kept trying to get the bar open. They're like, no, the bar's not open till after the tour that you got to take. I said, I already took that damn tour. I said, open the bar up. And they wouldn't open it, but Dickens was just walking by, and I said, Mike, they won't open the bar. He got the bar open.
Really?
I had an extra hour drinking by myself there while those other guys took the tour.
That's awesome. Well, the perks of winning a few championships, you get the drink and say, you guys go for the tour. So that's awesome.
Yeah, you go take that bullshit tour. I'm done.
Yeah. I gotta ask. I mean, okay, so you and Ditka, obviously you guys had an on again, off again relationship, right? You can safe to say that. But how is your relationship now? I mean, what do you think of the guy?
I would have loved to play with him because he was a
Oh, yeah.
great football
Yeah,
player.
yeah.
He was tough. I mean, he played the game the way it's supposed to be played.
Yeah.
And had he ever been in my huddle, I think he would have understood me a lot better too.
Yeah.
Because, he always thought that I did things to piss him off. And I did things to try to help us win,
Yeah.
because he was not an offensive coordinator. He called plays like a tight end would call plays. And I was always taught as a quarterback, if you see something on the defense that you can exploit, do it. And so I didn't change plays just to piss him off. If I saw something that I knew I had, a good opportunity to make a big play, I'd do it.
Yeah.
And then there was other times where he would send plays in that I just wouldn't even call. I'd look over like I pretend I didn't hear it in my headset.
Yeah.
And then he'd be MFing me all the way to the line of scrimmage. Because they're supposed to shut that damn helmet cam or earpiece off with about 10 seconds to go. So he gives you a little time at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd always tell the guys that had that button to shut it off earlier than that. So I didn't need him screaming in my head while I was at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And that happened quite a bit.
One of the guys too that I think you always can be synonymous with Chicago Bears and do that. And I've met him one time. I got to take my picture with him as Dick Butkus. And fuck, is that guy a hoot, man? As soon as we're coming to sit down and take a picture beside him, he's got this fart button or a little thing where, you sit down and then he's like, and you're like looking around and he's like looking at you. And then he starts, oh, I'm just joking with you. How is he to meet and what kind of guy was he? I'm sure he can have few beers too. Hey, he's a guy that probably.
Dick was, there's another guy that, probably the best linebacker of all time, middle linebacker. I mean, that guy was, tough. He really played the game the way it's supposed to be played.
Yeah.
Tough, just hard-nosed guy and just, yeah. I mean, very quiet off the field. He doesn't say a whole lot when you're with him.
Yeah.
But, yeah, he did all his talking on the field. That's all he needed to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, he's one of those guys you look back and now he's pretty good on Twitter too. When if you follow him, you'll see what kind of entertainment and laughter he brings to the table to be able to do that. He doesn't take a lot of shit from anybody, that's for sure. So
he never did.
Yeah, let's talk about a little bit of a serious matter about concussions, and we were talking a little bit during the break about how the NFL has finally started to be a little more progressive, right? And obviously you've gone through a lot of situations with your concussions and what kind of treatments you've gone through that. And recently the NFL has started to be able to approve things like cannabis and looking at, they granted $500,000 to a University of Regina professor here. What is your stance or your thought process on how the NFL is evolving now with concussions since you played?
Well, I mean, they're trying to do the right thing, but there's nothing they can do to keep the brain from slapping the side of your skull when there's a collision.
Yeah.
Your brain is sitting on a pool of fluid. It's only connected to your spinal column, and so no matter how good the helmets get, your brain is still going to take a pounding. And I know they're doing all these protocols now. They have this tent. I don't know what they do in the tent when they go on the sideline. Some guys come out and can play, other guys out. No, he's not playing. It's pretty much how it used to be back then. You know, as long as you can follow the doctor's finger, he'd put a finger up and follow my finger. You know, you had a headache, they say tape an aspirin to your helmet and go. You know, that's just the way it was. But they're finally realizing what traumatic brain injuries do to guys, and you know, I still suffer with some bad headaches and you know, a lot of confusion at times. But I go back to New York every 3 months. I get an adjustment in my neck, and it's not a manual adjustment at all. It's a machine. All I hear is a click, and it sends a vibrating pulse through my neck, and it moves the bones enough to let my spinal fluid flow properly. That's my problem now. You know, the concussions are pretty much, you know, I'm done with that. It's just the damage in my neck and my head now that from those.
Yeah.
You know, I had a broken neck at some point in my career they didn't tell me about, because he goes, well, you've got 3 different blockages. Your C6 and 7 are cracked and compressed, so you had a broken neck. My atlas bone is supposed to be perpendicular to the spine, and mine was pretty much straight up and down when they first saw me. So they've got that pretty much in alignment. And I'm just glad these doctors found me, because I was in a world of hurt. I've had 2 or 3 teammates actually kill themselves over these problems, because they just did not know what was happening to them. And at least I know now, and everybody that I talk to that's having some head problems, I give them this doctor's number, and you know, he just wants to help. You know, the NFL gave $100 million to Harvard I don't know how many years ago to do a brain study that the doctors that I'm working with now have been doing for 30 years. And I told him about this doctor, explained to him he should be speaking to the players and the owners. And as soon as I mentioned the word chiropractor, because the guy's actually a chiropractor by trade, but he's been studying the brain for 30 plus years. He speaks all over the world about it.
Yeah.
And he didn't want nothing to do with it. And that's when I knew he really didn't give a shit about the players. And so I'm sure it's the same way now with the cannabis. You know, they're relaxing the rules a little bit because a lot of the players are playing in states where it's legal. You know, they don't have a problem giving you a handful of painkillers. You know, because big pharma's, you know, they're tied in tight with big pharma.
Yep.
You know, so if you take away those painkillers, you know, it's going to hurt their bottom line, and they don't want that to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, corporate greed in you know, that always seems to win out over personal health and players' health, right? Which is a sad statement, but hopefully some bigger movements are going to come from this, right? And let's get into a little bit about cannabis. And to do that, tell me a little bit about your venture into the cannabis world.
Yeah, well, I've been a big proponent of cannabis since 1973. Actually, when I had smoked my first joint, and I was 14 years old, and I knew then. I said, "This is for me." Made me feel good, made me eat, made me sleep, and I've since over the years, I've spoken at a lot of cannabis conferences, and with this Dr. Uma Donabalan. I mean, she knows more about this plant than anybody I've ever met in my life, and she's telling me all the medicinal properties of it. Yeah. And I said, Doc, you don't have to convince me. I mean, like I said, I've been a proponent a long time. But I said, it made me sleep, eat, and feel better. She says, that's what it's supposed to do. She says, THC stands for the happy cannabinoid. And so, you know, every living thing has a cannabinoid system in their bodies. We're supposed to be using this plant. You know, it's not a drug. It's a medicinal herb. Mm-hmm. And it you know, it regulates everything in your body. And that's why your body wants to. That's why it stays in your system for so long, because for generations we've been deprived of it. Mm. And I tell people all the time, that's why it's so pungent, because back in the day, man had to find it so he could heal himself. Yeah. And so, you know, they're finally realizing how good it's a neuroprotectant. It's an anti-inflammatory. Mm-hmm. If anybody should be using this, is get people that play contact sports. But you know, the stigma, there's still a lot of stigma. I mean, a lot of it's going away, but there's still a lot of people that are freaked out about it, and they're like, oh no, a lot of my military friends, I've been trying to get them off the pill. I mean, they give these guys so many pills to take. I mean, they can't sleep. They can't, you know, they can't function properly. Mm-hmm. And they all say, oh, we'll lose our benefits if we use the cannabis. I said, no, you won't. There was a law passed years ago that nobody will tell them about, that if they live in a state that actually has cannabis that's legal, they're able to use that instead of all the pills that they take. But these guys are still scared they're going to lose their pensions.
Yeah, of course. That's funny how we're still living in a society where it's the answer is obvious, and yet still.
Well, here in the States, they're giving out 30 million or billion worth of crack pipes now. So.
Yeah, well, here in Canada, if Charleston was here, instead of lost somewhere in Saginaw, he'd be able to tell you the benefits for the CFL players that have used. And this is just a quote from me, so I don't want everybody to get bitter at the CFL players and do that. But I've heard that some of the CFL players enjoy the cannabis when they're not playing here in Canada, and so that they see the benefits of it and they understand it, and it's one of the benefits of coming up here to Canada now that it's legal. They do that, and you can tell that some of the guys that it's a relaxant. It's just something that it helps, especially when you're playing the game for how long, and to be able to do that. So, and so tell me a little bit about your involvement with you. You just started to be involved with the cannabis company too. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been looking. When I first moved to Arizona, they first made it legal out here medically, and I was trying to get involved. But there's a lot of shady people in this business. It's like any other good business. There's a lot of shady people.
Yeah.
So it took me quite a few years to find the right guys, and I partnered up with ex-ball players. Kyle Turley was an offensive lineman for the Saints and the Rams, and then Evan Britton, another offensive lineman. So Kyle's probably about 10 years younger than me, and then Evan's 10 years younger than Kyle. So we've got 3 generations of guys right now that are trying to get the word across that it's not a drug.
Yeah.
It's just a medicinal herb, and it heals so many different afflictions that people have. And it's amazing. These guys are scientists. They're not, everybody thinks about pot and the long-haired hippies that are growing it.
Yeah.
Some of those guys are still the best growers, but now there's scientists actually involved in this stuff. Every facility that you go into, people are in white coats and masks, and it's a very sterile environment. And so our company is called Revenant, like the movie The Revenant.
Okay.
Kyle named that because like in the movie, he comes back from the dead basically after the bear mauls him.
Yeah.
And he goes, this plant saved my life. It got me off the pills. It got me off all these other things that I was doing. And that's the reason for the name. But it's doing pretty well. I just had a call today from our CEO, said things are going good. So I'm looking forward to it, taking off.
Good for you. And and it's just available there in Arizona, or is it available?
We launched in California. So we're only in California right now, but
okay.
Laws are starting to change where we'll be able to cross state lines, and then once that happens, hopefully we can go worldwide as well. So
good. Charleston will be the first one to try it here in Canada when he's back up here. So that's for sure. That's awesome. Tell me a little bit about another thing that's deep for me and means a lot. Same thing to you is supporting the military, supporting some of the benefits or some of the different charities that are out there. What do you do with the military now?
I do a lot of stuff. I've been very fortunate over the last 30 plus years to do some incredible things with the military. I do a lot with the SEALs, a lot with Hope for the Warriors. What are the other charities? Folds of Honor. I mean, there's, I've got to fly an F-16, a B-1 bomber. I've got to drive pretty much every tank we have.
Holy crap.
When I was in San Diego with the Chargers, I used to go over to Miramar, Fighter Town every week and watch the Monday night game with the pilots. I got to do all the simulators, and I said, the thing I want to do is get shot off an aircraft carrier and land on one. So they actually worked on that over the summer between 89 and 90. But I never went back to the Chargers. I ended up going to the Philadelphia Eagles in 1990. But I call the guy every once in a while. Hey, can I still get shot off that thing? They said, well, we'll make it happen if you ever get back here. But I got to go to Iraq. I'm not trying to think, 05 or 06. Whenever they hung Saddam Hussein is when I was there. They wouldn't let us go to the hanging, but we were pretty close.
Oh, wow.
But just to see what happens in wartime with our guys and all the good things that they did over there that never got reported. The hospitals, the infrastructure that we put up, the buildings, the schools that we made. None of that was reported here. But it's just to be in that situation in wartime was pretty eye opening. It was, this is what I do, why I do what I do for the veterans, because they're putting their lives on the line every day for our freedoms, and none of us could live the way we do without those guys. So
Yeah.
Just got to be able to appreciate that.
That's awesome. And that's something that I think, I'm the same way. I read a lot of books. I try and be able to listen to a lot of podcasts, and you listen to what these guys have gone through. And like you were touching base before too, all their, all the things that they witness and do, they need help too, and cannabis hopefully is a way.
No, there's no doubt.
With all the, the damage to the brain, mentally, physically, all that stuff. And I really, obviously the military, it's a soft spot. I got a few guys that are in the Canadian military still too, that are in there on Redshaw and Keith and Perry. And, it's just something that you look at what's happening overseas, today with the Ukraine and how those guys have given up everything, and they're fighting. They're fighting for their country, for the freedom. And we don't get a chance, I think, to thank the veterans enough. So good for you for doing that. And that's something.
How about that leader in Ukraine right now, that president?
Shit. Yeah, well, we wouldn't do
I
that.
don't need a ride. I need ammunition.
Yeah.
Now, there's a guy with some balls.
Yeah, I was going to say, he must have went to the same school that you did, because you guys had big cojones and be able to do that. So good for you, Jim, for all your charity work on that. Is there anything else that we can maybe help out with or promote from some of our viewers or guests that you're doing that you want to make a shout out to?
I'm trying to think what else I'm into right now. Oh, I'm also involved with a company called, don't tell me I'm going to forget the name right now. But we have a CBD tape, the K tape that everybody uses.
Yeah.
It's actually CBD infused. And it's, the guy sent me a roll of it. They were talking to me about the company, and I was out in my yard 2 summers ago during COVID, doing a lot of yard work and a lot of shoveling and stuff like that. My elbows and shoulders, I couldn't even move. And this guy sent me this tape, and I put it on my elbows. And the next morning, it was like I hadn't done anything. I mean, I called him right up. I said, "Hey, I want to be part of this company. This stuff is amazing." And so, I got to be on the board of this company, and looking forward to that thing taking off as well.
And so, is it mostly for athletes, or obviously it's for older people,
No,
or anybody?
it's
Anybody that's just
anywhere you can buy K tape, you can
Yeah.
buy this. It's just CBD infused, and
Nice.
it's an incredible product. I think I'm kind of in charge of the collegiate division of the thing. So
Okay.
the first people I called was Brigham Young,
Nice.
and said, "Hey, you guys need to try this tape."
Yeah.
I figured if I can get it into BYU, everybody should be able to.
Yeah, if you can do that, you're a
And
million.
they love it. So
Wow.
things should be going good there.
Good. You got to be a miracle worker if you can get that tape into BYU. Good for you. You can get it anywhere then. Good, Jim. That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate the fact you came on and trying to be able to educate us, a little us Canadians and Americans, a little bit about yourself and the different companies you're involved with. I apologize that Charleston, we saw him in the beginning, and
He was on the car working his way here.
yeah, but he wasn't able to join us, so I'll do that. We'll have to see if we can drag him out to the golf tournament. If not, we'll get you on. I owe you a bottle of tequila at least for coming on the show, so I'm going to definitely bring that up. I'll see you in Palm Springs in May. But thank you very much for joining us. It's a pleasure talking to you. I wish you all the best, and we'll have some links for some of your charities and some of the things to do on some of our social media. But thank you all again. Thank you again for taking the time to join, and we'll see you.
My pleasure, bud. I look forward to seeing you at Grant's event, and we'll have some laughs at the bar.
You betcha. You betcha. All the best to you, Jim. Take care and say hi to your family.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, take care.